Chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại với kênh Luyện Nghe tiếng Anh mỗi ngày. Video hôm nay sẽ nói về chủ đề làm thế nào để vượt qua nỗi sợ. Video này được thiết kế với giọng đọc chậm rãi, rõ ràng, kèm theo phụ đề song ngữ Anh Việt, phù hợp với các bạn ở trình độ tiếng Anh B1. Nếu bạn là người mới, đừng quên nhấn đăng ký kênh để không bỏ lỡ các video tiếp theo nhé. Bây giờ, chúng ta cùng luyện tập nào.
Hello, and welcome back to the channel. I'm really glad you're here today because we're going to talk about something that every one of us faces, fear. Today's topic is how to overcome fear and stop being afraid of failure. If you've ever held yourself back from doing something just because you were scared, this video is for you. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever wanted to try something new, but fear stopped you? Maybe it was speaking in front of a group, applying for a job, starting a business, or learning English. You felt excited about the idea, but then fear whispered, what if you fail? What if people laugh at you? What if you're not good enough? And so, you did nothing. Sounds familiar? You see, fear is a part of all of us. It's not something to be ashamed of. In fact, fear is completely normal. It's your brain's way of trying to keep you safe. Long ago, fear protected humans from danger, like wild animals or getting lost in the forest. But today, we face different kinds of fears. We're not afraid of tigers anymore. We're afraid of judgment, embarrassment, rejection, and failure. These are silent fears, invisible fears, but they can feel just as powerful. Now here's something interesting to think about. What if fear isn't always the enemy? What if fear is actually trying to help you grow? Because fear often shows up when something matters to you. You're scared to speak up, because deep down you want to be heard. You're afraid to try because you care about the result. So instead of seeing fear as a wall, what if you saw it as a sign? A sign that says, this is important. This is where you need to go. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you're thinking about joining an English-speaking class. Part of you is excited. You want to speak fluently. You want to feel confident. But then fear shows up. What if I make mistakes? What if others are better than me? So you don't join. You stay quiet. You stay safe. But do you grow? No. That's the cost of fear. It protects you from failure, yes, but it also protects you from progress. So in this video, we're going to go deeper. We'll talk about what fear really is, why it shows up, and most importantly, how to face it, step by step. What if I told you that fear isn't something you have to fight, that you can learn to walk with it and still move forward? Stick with me until the end, because I'll also share a simple but powerful mindset shift that helped me and many others stop letting fear control our choices. This might just change the way you look at fear forever. Let's get started. Fear of failure keeps us stuck. Now that we understand fear is a natural part of being human, let's talk about one of the biggest types of fear, the fear of failure. This fear is sneaky. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it shows up as hesitation, as self-doubt, as silence, and before we know it, we've built a comfortable little cage around ourselves. A life where we never take risks, never try new things, and never go after what we really want. All because we're afraid to fail. But let me ask you something. What does failure really mean? Does it mean you're not good enough? That you're not smart or strong? No. Failure simply means you tried something and it didn't go the way you hoped. that's all. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're learning. The truth is, we've been taught to be afraid of failure since we were young. In school, a wrong answer felt like a disaster. On social media, we only see the highlights, never the behind-the-scenes struggles. We start to believe that everyone else is succeeding while we're the only ones falling behind. But that's not true. Behind every success story, there are moments of fear, doubt, and failure. You just don't see them. Think about anyone you admire, an artist, an athlete, an entrepreneur, even your favorite YouTuber. Do you think they got it right the first time? Of course not. They made mistakes. They messed up. They failed. But they didn't stop. They kept going. And that's why they grew. The fear of failure keeps us small. It tells us, don't try. Don't risk it. Stay safe. But staying safe often means staying stuck. You avoid failure, but you also avoid growth. You avoid pain, but you also avoid potential. And at the end of the day, which one hurts more, trying and failing, or never trying at all? So let me flip the question for you. What if failure isn't the worst thing that can happen? What if the real failure is not trying at all? In the next part, we're going to explore how failure is not the opposite of success, but actually a necessary part of it. And I'll show you how to shift your mindset so you no longer fear failing, you actually start to learn from it. Let's keep going. Failure is part of the process. So, we've talked about how fear of failure keeps us stuck, but now let's look at something even more powerful. The idea that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. Yes, read that again. Failure is part of success. You cannot grow, learn, or improve without falling down once in a while. And that's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to expect. Think about how we learn anything in life. Learning to walk. You fall 100 times before you finally stand up. Learning to ride a bike. You wobble, you fall, you get back up. Even learning English. You make mistakes with grammar, with pronunciation, with confidence. But do those mistakes mean you'll never speak English well? Of course not. They're just steps on the path. Failure teaches you things that success can't. It teaches you resilience. It teaches you patience. It shows you what doesn't work so you can get closer to what does. But only if you're willing to keep going. The people who succeed in life are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who don't give up when they do. Let me give you a real example. Think about Thomas Edison, the man who invented the light bulb. He tried over 1,000 times before it finally worked. When someone asked him how it felt to fail so many times, he said, "I didn't fail. I just found 1,000 ways that didn't work." That's the mindset of someone who understands the value of failure. Now imagine applying that mindset to your own life. Instead of saying, "I failed," you say, "I learned something." Instead of thinking, "This is the end," you say, "This is just one step." How different would your life look if you saw every setback as part of the process? You see, the goal is not to live a life without failure. The goal is to build the courage to fail and keep moving anyway. Because every time you fall and get back up, you're becoming stronger, wiser, more ready for what's next. So next time you fail, don't panic. Don't give up. Remind yourself that this is exactly how growth works. You're not broken, you're building. In the next part, we'll talk about the power of taking action and why doing something, even imperfectly, is often the best way to overcome fear. Ready? Let's keep going. Action shrinks fear. Now that we know failure is part of the journey, here's something just as important. Fear gets smaller when you take action. Yes, action is the medicine for fear, because fear loves silence. It grows in stillness. The longer you wait, the more afraid you feel. But the moment you move, even a little, fear starts to lose its power. Think about a time you were afraid to do something. Maybe it was speaking in front of others, starting a new project, or trying something for the first time. You thought about it for days. Your mind created all kinds of worst-case scenarios. But then, finally you did it. And what happened? Most of the time, it wasn't as bad as you imagined. In fact, it felt good, empowering. That's the power of action. Taking action doesn't mean you have to be fearless. It means you act despite the fear. Even if your voice shakes, even if your hands tremble, even if you're unsure, you still take that small step forward. And when you do, something amazing happens. Your brain learns that you're capable, that the fear didn't break you, that you survived. And slowly, fear begins to fade. Let's take a simple example. You want to improve your English speaking, but you're afraid of making mistakes. So instead of waiting for the perfect time when you feel ready, you just start small. You record yourself for 1 minute. You say one sentence to a friend. You join a short conversation. At first it feels scary, but after a few tries you start to notice, hey, I can do this. That's what action does. It turns fear into confidence. And remember, action doesn't have to be big. In fact, small actions are often the best way to begin. One small decision today, one step, one try. That's enough. Fear loses its grip when you move forward, even if it's just an inch. So don't wait for confidence before you act. Confidence is not what you need to begin. It's what you earn after you begin. The more you act, the braver you become. In the next part, we'll look at how your thoughts shape your fear and how changing your inner voice can change your entire experience with fear. Let's keep going. Change the way you think about fear. Fear doesn't always start with what's outside of us. Often, it begins in our minds, with the things we tell ourselves. Our thoughts are powerful. The stories we repeat inside our heads shape the way we feel, the way we act, and the way we see the world. So if you want to change your relationship with fear, you have to start by changing your inner voice. Let me ask you something. When you feel afraid, what do you usually tell yourself? Do you say, I can't do this? Or what if I fail? Do you imagine everything going wrong before it even starts? Most of us do. And when we think like that, fear becomes bigger because our thoughts feed it. But what if you spoke to yourself differently? What if, instead of saying, what if I fail, you said, what if I grow? Or what if I learn something important? Just one different thought can completely change how you feel. You go from fear to curiosity, from self-doubt to self-compassion, from stuck to moving. Here's something I love to remind myself. Talk to yourself like you would talk to someone you care about. Would you tell your best friend, you're going to mess this up? You're not good enough? Of course not. You'd say, try your best. I believe in you. You're learning. So why not speak to yourself with that same kindness? Your mind is always listening. So plant the right thoughts. Positive, gentle, supportive thoughts. You're not weak because you feel fear. You're human. And when you shift the way you think about fear, not as a monster, but as a signal, you begin to take back your power. In the next part, we'll talk about how fear can actually be a sign of growth, and how embracing it can lead you to the best version of yourself. Stick with me, because it only gets better from here. Fear means you're growing. Now here's something that might surprise you. Feeling fear can actually be a good thing. Yes, you heard that right. Fear doesn't always mean you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it means you're doing something brave, something new, something important. Fear often shows up not when you're weak, but when you're growing. Let's think about this. When do you feel the most fear? Is it when you're doing something safe and familiar, or when you're stepping out of your comfort zone? Most likely, it's the second one. And that makes sense. Growth only happens when you stretch yourself, when you try something you've never done before, when you take a risk. And fear? It's just your body's way of saying, hey, we've never been here before. That's not a warning. It's a sign that change is happening. For example, let's say you've always wanted to speak English confidently, but the moment you open your mouth, fear shows up. Your heart races, your voice shakes, you want to run away. But here's the truth. Those feelings mean you care. They mean you're challenging yourself. And that is exactly how confidence is built. Step by step, fear by fear. The people who grow the most are not the ones who avoid fear. They're the ones who walk through it. They feel the fear and still say, yes, I'm doing it anyway. And with each small win, fear loses its power, and your confidence grows stronger. So the next time fear shows up, pause and smile. Don't see it as a stop sign. See it as a message. You're on the edge of something good. You're growing. In the next and final part, we'll wrap everything up with one simple truth. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to take the next small step. Let's finish strong. Just take the next step. So what can you do with all of this? What's the answer to fear? The truth is simpler than you think. Just take the next step. Not the biggest step, not the perfect step. Just the next one. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to feel brave or ready. You just need to move forward, even if it's only a little. Because every big journey starts with one small move. Every dream is built by little steps. And every fear becomes smaller when you take action, again and again. Maybe your next step is raising your hand in class. Maybe it's writing that first page. Maybe it's practicing English for just 5 minutes today. Whatever it is, do it. Don't wait for fear to disappear. Let courage grow by doing. Remember, you don't have to be fearless to make progress. You just have to be willing. Willing to try. Willing to fail. Willing to keep going. That's how you grow. That's how you win. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope this message reminded you that fear is not the enemy. It's a signal. And you are stronger than you think. Keep moving forward. Keep showing up. Keep taking those small steps. Because one day, you'll look back and realize that fear didn't stop you. It shaped you. It made you bold. It helped you become who you were meant to be. And if you found this video helpful or meaningful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us grow and keeps these positive messages coming. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. You've got this.